Hey everybody, welcome to episode 85 of the All JuveCast, and there's still not happy times, unfortunately, but let's break it down anyways. I do have a first-time guest joining me today, which is always awesome. This year's been incredible for that, and everybody reaching out and joining the podcast for the first time. And I got Drew joining me. Drew, how are you doing?
Well, it would have been better if we had a better Thursday, but
yeah,
hey, we're hanging in there, right?
Baby steps.
We got a second leg coming. So
baby steps, man. We lost to Verona. We drew Milan. Let's go for that win on the weekend.
Take care of things against pressure, right?
Yeah. So before we get into obviously the Coppa Italia first leg of the semi with Milan that we drew 1-1, it's a routine around here for first timers to share their story on how they became fans of Juventus. And Drew, I'd love to hear your story, man.
Yeah, man. So it goes back, to kind of middle school, I'll say. So it goes back to like the mid '90s. Want to say it goes back to I'm in the U.S., so it goes back to World Cup '94, following the Azzurri there, probably because of Baggio more than anything else.
Yeah.
And then I think right after that, maybe it was that year, the year after, EA Sports put out their first FIFA game on PC with like the horrible little, pixelated guys. So that was wicked fun. And then kind of right on the heels of that, I think was the first time in the U.S. like we really got matches on TV. We got like some of the latter stage Champions League games. So watching those, that was obviously a good time for Juve, and some good runs, lifting the trophy there the last time. So that I think just kind of cemented it. I was like, I think the year we won, I wasn't quite like a Juventini then, but kind of like right after that, then I went back to the game and I was like, oh sweet, like now it's the next version, and like now I can play with this team that won and get familiar with some of those players. And I remember like having a trident up top with like Del Piero and Ravanelli, and
Vialli.
Yeah, Vialli, and just like hammering goals and stuff. And I was like, this is awesome. I love this team. And just kind of kept it up since then. So
that's awesome, man. That's awesome. That's cool. And so being a fan over here in North America, for some of the listeners around the world and stuff, it was always really, really hard for a while there to watch Juve. I remember the days, man. Oh my God, we were like my dad. We would get those big, massive satellite dishes, and you would change stations trying to find it. It was just like so loud, and you would do whatever it took to like just try and track down channels that would cover it, and it was funny. But man, the times changed. That's one of the beautiful things now is that you can watch all of it much more accessible to us fans here in North America. So, but no, that's cool, man. Thanks for sharing the story. Let's get to this first leg, Milan Juve. Let's start with the starting lineups before anything. I always like just getting people's thoughts on the starting lineup. Really, I was pumped about two things: seeing Ramsey as a mid-sala and Dybala being up top. Quadrado as a winger is usually when he frustrates the hell out of me. I haven't found myself frustrated with him as right back, but those were the things I was thinking about going into the match, seeing the lineup. And I just want to get your take on the lineup and what you were thinking going into it.
Yeah, I think you're definitely right about Quadrado. More frustrating as a winger because he tends to, dwell on the ball, make bad decisions, or, fire crosses into the stands. I was excited too to see Dybala up top. I think there's this belief that like he can't work as like a false nine or like a like a deeper lying forward up there because he's not tall. He can't hold up. He doesn't have the stature to hold up the ball, whatever it may be. But I think his movement there. I mean, we know he likes to drop. We know he's been used like in that attacking midfield role. Allegri had him even farther back sometimes. So like he's able to drop there, and when he drops, he can create that space for Ronaldo to come in and cut in off the wing for. So I think it makes sense, and it's nice to see him up there. I mean, I wouldn't even be opposed to if there was ever a time we were playing, two forwards, to have him up there on the right, have Ronaldo up there, nominally on the left, kind of drifting out to the wing.
Yeah.
Because I think it can work. I think they have a better understanding, and it can work.
Yeah, I mean, I think lately it's something we're unfortunately never going to see from Sarri, but I think we're built to stack that midfield. We need the support in the middle of the park, and I think you start looking at like a 3-5-2, or even call it a 3-4-3 hybrid, whatnot. But I mean, if you're constantly looking thin in the middle of the park and it's getting spaced out and stretched out, like, let's just use what we got and kind of support them. Run 5 across there, one a little bit higher up top. I think we need to scrap this deep lying playmaker role, regista, because we don't have somebody that can really truly play it. I mean, unless we give Rabiot or Bentancur a shot, but I like Bentancur being as one of the Metsalas because he's actually good going forward. He's got good pace about him. He's got 6 assists for us too in the league. I don't want to keep him that far back, and that's my only thoughts on using him back there, because a lot of fans have recognized how strong a season he's had for us, and he's been great, and he's good defensively, but he is one of our better guys out of the middle of the park going forward. But I was interested to see Ramsey there in an 8 role. We've a bunch of fans have been calling for that for a while. So
I think to your point with Pjanic as the regista, or whoever as the regista, I think that role needs to go. I mean, I think we can touch on this later, like tactically, but that role is not. I mean, 5, 6, 7 years ago, or when you have a transcendent player like a Pirlo there, it makes sense, but it's not a role that you see top teams playing with. I mean, if you see a top team playing with like a deeper midfielder in some kind of diamond midfield or something, typically it's a Casemiro or something,
it's a
right? It's
guy,
a ball winner, a cleanup guy.
Yeah.
Maybe he has some distribution skills, but he's not the focal playmaker from that deep lying position anymore. It doesn't work
exactly
in European football. Maybe it works in the league, but
no. And I've had the argument. With many, but it's just takes a special player to truly work that role to its potential, and there's not many out there. And we were blessed with Pirlo, who kind of defied the odds at the age that he came to us, and nobody really thought what was going to end up happening. Nobody could really foresee that. Well, some people probably did, but I will admit I was not one of them. I thought we were getting Milan's scraps there, and man, was I wrong. But yeah, okay, so we're kind of on the same page with some of the tactics and strategy and formation lineups. Getting into this game, a pretty dull first 20 minutes, I'd say. Like, honestly, control in favor of Juve, but nothing at all coming from it. And honestly, like, probably out of the whole 20 minutes, Milan ended up with a couple scoring opportunities. Buffon made a pretty key save on Calabria there from the top of the box there. That's really it in 20 minutes. And, there was a couple nice passing out of the back scenarios that Juve was kind of slicing through Milan. It was like, okay, if we build, off this, and good, but it just kind of faded. That kind of crisp, quick passing just kind of faded. We get into 28th minute, and just a brutal giveaway by us. They get another opportunity to score from up Buffon again, as he does probably until he's 199 years old, this guy. He makes another good stop. It's just 35th minute. Nice hit from Cuadrado. Forced a strong save from Donnarumma, but I'm starting to notice when we get into the attacking zones around this half-hour mark here that we are so isolated, and there are huge gaps between our players. There's a lack of support, and there just really isn't any options. There's nobody to play off him. So Cuadrado's up here coming into the box. Our fullback on that side, De Chilio, nowhere to be found. To at least have an option here, at least pull somebody away that has to at least, make a
pull out and mark him. Yeah.
Just even think about it. Oh, if he's going to pass this guy, he's going to have a clean cross, and give him nothing like that. It's literally Cuadrado 1v1 or like against whoever's in front of him in the box, and the other two forwards are back to goal with defenders right on him, and it's just like, where are the options?
I think. Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that I noticed too is when they're that spread out like they are, if they do lose the ball and then they press and they win the ball back, they got nobody around them to do anything with it, so they end up just having to pass back and recycle possession. So you've won the ball back, put them in, under pressure in a dangerous position, and you do nothing with it. I mean, you literally turn around, pass the ball back to Pjanic, and you're like, okay, well that's great. We have possession again, but we had a chance to take a shot there, do something with it. Yeah,
no, so. It's true. There's just the lack of options, the lack of support. Like there is, and I've talked about this too, and I've just thrown out a theory I personally have, and I don't know if it's just we give those guys too much freedom, that there's no set structure and there's no set design. Maybe based on just saying, hey, I'm going to trust these guys because one of them's Ronaldo and the other's Dybala, and I'm just going to give them the freedom to, hey, make it work in the final third. But maybe we need the opposite, and we need set structure and guys in set positions so that you know exactly where your teammates are going to be. Because, man, I watch a hell of a lot less talented teams than us, and they know where...
I mean, you watch... Yeah.
They know where their teammates are going to be. They know what they're trying to do to create their opportunities, and we just have no synchronicity. And you see early in this match, guys throwing their arms up and the frustration all over the place. And this is just, it's a team that just looks more than struggling and not in a rut. It's got to feel like we are literally lost. It's got a deeper feel to it when you watch this team play. It's not just a slump and struggling. Like there's, I don't know.
It's disconnected completely. I mean, you watch Milan. I was sitting there watching them, and I was more attracted to their attacking play than our attacking play. I mean,
Yeah, it's tough when you start watching.
Çalhanoğlu knows where Ibra's going to be, or knows where...
And he's been there for, 2-3 weeks?
Yeah.
He's been there for 2-3 weeks, Ibra, and he's got better chemistry with those guys than our entire team does that's played all season together. Yeah. And this is what I'm trying to get at when people...
just here, and they know, and they're it's free-flowing, and it's fluid, and we're dwelling on the ball, guys not making runs, guys standing there.
Yeah, there's pull my hair out. There's problems there. Like if you can pick out a guy that joined a team in 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever it's been a short period of time, and
yeah, two weeks, I don't even know.
And they've got chemistry already, and they know because they play sound positionally, whereas our forwards can be on one flank and then a scenario later they're on the opposite flank, and it's just like everybody's moving everywhere, and it's like, you know what, let's just dial it down,
simplify.
That way when we get the ball and we're in a pressure situation, we actually know where that guy's supposed to be, not like, oh damn, I was fading out to the left this time, oh okay, well cool, because for the past 4 scenarios you've been over here, awesome. It's just, I think that's part of it, but there could be deeper lying issues, and maybe just Sarri has lost. Maybe he's never had the team, but we'll dive into that too for sure. But we'll keep going through this game. Late in the first half, Cuadrado appears to get hit with an arm to the face by Kessie there, and nobody even looks at it. Did Quad make a bit of a meal out of it? Yeah, he did. But it's a foul regardless.
It's in the ball, right? I mean, that to me, I was surprised.
That's a yellow for sure, at minimum.
I'm like, how are we not even looking at this, right? Like all the crazy marginal stuff that gets looked at.
The ball's gone. There's no play there whatsoever. And Kessié, like, he knew what he was doing. Throws his arm up there. Like, that's a foul every time, and it's at minimum a yellow. But whatever. This ref he was all over the place, man.
It was a bloodbath out there. I was like, what? We just not calling fouls. Okay.
He was letting some heavy stuff go, but then he'd call some real chintzy stuff, and you were just like, I could definitely feel. I get on Juve sometimes, okay, when they throw their arms up and focus on calls and kind of stop playing. But this, I could feel the frustration because I've been in matches like that where you have no idea what's going to get called and what isn't. And when you start taking these hits and these knocks here and there and nothing is getting called, and then like you're called for the littlest challenge, like it's frustrating as hell to play. And so I was feeling that for the players. This ref was all over the map. But we kind of end this sleeper of a first half. And I was at work, so I had it streaming while I'm working. I watched it later. I don't know why, but I did. And I had to keep backtracking and watch again because I was constantly falling asleep. It was brutal.
I mean, I'll say player of the first half for me, and I didn't share this with you yet. It might be a surprise. I would honestly say DeCilio. Because
really?
I thought that at least he was making vertical passes from the fullback position down to Cuadrado and setting Cuadrado, off to try to do something. But he was at least pushing the ball forward when he got it, and they were fairly long vertical passes too. Yeah. So he was at least trying to push the play a little.
Yeah. Let's see. I'll get. Okay. I'm not saying that.
I mean, it wasn't a great half for anybody. But...
No. I mean, the couple things I noticed is this played out more as a 4-4-2 for Juve. But again, we ran into the same problem we did against Verona. He made that switch when Verona was crushing us and just taking the game to us. And he dropped Costa back. But that left Rabiot out of place as an outside midfielder. He did the same thing to Blaise Matuidi in this match and left him as an outside midfielder, which is not what should be happening.
Criminal.
Ramsey, as a Mitsala, I liked him for the same things you were saying about DeCilio. I felt I liked his direct approach to the position. I liked that he was, when Dybala was dropping back, Dybala's work rate actually in that first half was huge. He took so many knocks. He was always showing for the ball, always wanted it. And he was linking up stuff very well, which he's been huge for us this season. I liked him dropping back. He was working with Dybala, and he was distributing the ball promptly when it needed to be and putting it in the player's path, whereas I feel we have too many guys on this club that eat it. They just eat the ball and hang on for way too long, and I feel like we don't play with the proper tempo and approach until we're in adverse situations. And this is a trend that has been happening for so long, and I've talked about a lot on this podcast, but it is frustrating as hell because you start seeing what we can do when we approach matches the way Cristiano approaches matches.
Sure. Yeah.
Going for the kill, wanting to kill. And we just have a lot of guys that are just mush. I'm just going to say mush for lack of a better, but it is so lackadaisical from so many guys and so slow and just, how many passes during this Milan match that barely even made it to the guy, almost kept getting cut off, and we did have some brutal turnovers, and it's just man, we're mid-February and you can't make a 12-foot pass crisp.
Yeah.
Let's get serious here. Put some mustard behind it. It's shocking to me that just the easy, simplistic stuff that we're getting wrong, right? But another thing I noticed is just we need to commit. We actually need to commit to the attack more. We talked about Cuadrado and the lack of options. That's what I'm kind of talking about. We got to make up our minds, come up with the actual system. What's our style to create chances? How are we going to create confusion for the defense and whatnot? And there's just no... Everybody seems to be occupying the same space, or there's big gaps. It's never really makes sense. One thing is we become so one-dimensional in attack, always coming up one side, because Sandro can't stay wide for whatever reason. He gets sucked into our midfield, and then when we try to switch out to that field, he's got way too much ground to cover that the defender's just running with him. So he's never really an option. And that's why a lot of the time when it does end up going to him, all he can do is go backwards, because he never puts himself in an opportunity to start pushing that edge, pushing that line, and try to get in a scenario. And there was opportunities there against Milan where Dybala would drop back and he would look, and if Sandro was where he needed to be, maybe a through ball, maybe a ball over the top could have been there, but Sandro's right back standing next to Matuidi.
Pjanic.
At times Pjanic, and it's just, what are we doing? So the organization needs to be much, much better. At this point of the season, that's concerning. And I understand a lot of fans getting frustrated. You still have some that say there's no need to panic. We're on pace for all our objectives. But no, I'm not one of those. How are you feeling?
The thing that frustrates me is you've got Sarri and this whole, from what we've been told, his whole system is 4-3 and then we'll see, right? Isn't that, I've heard that as the mantra for it, right? So the guys up top are supposed to have, like you said, creative freedom to kind of combine and make things happen. None of us are coaches. We're all, armchair tacticians, fans, whatever. I think we can all sit there and say, if I was the coach of that team, I would take my forwards, my Cristiano, my Dybala, my Higuain, my Costa, my Bernardeschi, that's another topic for another day, but take those guys, throw them on one side of the pitch, lock them in a metaphorical room, and make them stay there until they have that understanding, until they've figured out, okay, Dybala likes the ball played in crisply to his right foot, but less crisp to his left foot. Or, Cristiano doesn't mind the ball to the chest, but he doesn't want you to hit him in the thigh. Whatever it may be, they need to just have an immersion. They need to go, not a retreat, I don't want to see them, not talking that, but they needed time together to just figure out what they all like, how they all like to move, and, whether they're practicing it or whether they're just talking about it, whether they're just saying, you get that stuff in games, but you can short circuit some of that stuff in training and talk through and say, this is what when I see this is what I do. There's guys making videos on the internet saying, look, this is how, Cristiano's always making back shoulder runs. He's always breaking off guys at 20-degree angles, whatever. If we can see that sitting on the internet, he knows it. He can he can communicate it to the other guys. They need to process it. It's just maddening to me that, I think we all wanted to see some attacking football. I think, a lot of folks were excited to see a different style. And like you said, it's, we're past the midpoint of the season now, and we're not seeing that consistently. So
yeah, it's
our halftime thoughts here.
I think it's right for fans to be a little alarmed. I mean, sure, we're on pace for all the objectives, but it's pretty uninspiring at this point that nobody's really surprised anymore if we end up trophyless. Honestly, with the bad run that we've been on, the only thing that seems to be all right is us playing at home. For whatever, like, that's still been somewhat of a fortress. I mean, we get results there at least, but like on the road this year, we've looked lately I should say, on the road looks pretty shaky. So I don't know, and just going back to talking about the support and us committing to the attack. Like, if we have Dybala dropping this far back to create that link, like, a midfielder needs to overlap that run. If he's coming in, someone needs to make a run to still try and penetrate the defense. Otherwise, what's the point of him always dropping that far back? All he's doing is one defender's coming out, everybody stays behind, and we're all still back here. And it's, what are we really trying to do with that? Like, all that happens is he comes down, he shows, nobody overlaps, he just switches field. We gain that field possession, but nothing else happens for it. Nobody's gone into that space. And even when they do, our crosses are pathetic. How can nobody on this club cross the damn ball?
And you got a guy who's, top 3 headers all time, like...
How can... I don't understand.
Nobody can get him the ball in the air.
I would put these guys out on the pitch. I'd get Adidas, the sponsor, and I'd say, give me every goddamn ball you have available right now. Right. And these guys are going to be crossing that damn ball until they get like 100 out of 100 like money crosses
right.
in.
Through a hula hoop or something. Yeah, whatever, right?
It's ridiculous. And I mean, sure, you're going to throw the bad cross like occasionally, but like, it's the opposite. It's like the percentage that you should have for failures is the percentage we have for good crosses. It's literally the reverse, and that just blows me away. But it's cool because you can watch the players that struggle with crossing try to kick a ball into a basketball hoop on the social media. Like,
what are they doing, right?
Just adding to the frustrations. But yeah,
I mean,
if people thought this episode was going to come without a little bit of a rant here and there, well, you guys, I can't help you. It's going to be a little bit of a rant. Okay, 46 minute. Let's get to the second half.
Second half.
Okay. Again, Milan just gets in so easily off a flick on, and Rebic there, great save from Buffon. Again, ridiculous. Anyways, you wanted to talk about guys in the first half. I mean, Buffon, Dybala, and Ramsey probably for me. I did enjoy Ramsey in there. Quadrado was good. De Sciglio I had no problems with. I thought De Ligt was pretty solid too. But yeah, Buffon. He just keeps doing what he's got to do. It's awesome. I even sensed it in the way he was throwing the ball out to his players when he had it in his hands, and he was like, get going. Like, let's go. I've talked about this too, and I've talked about it. Chiellini, God knows sometimes it's like a deer on ice when he's got the ball or whatnot, but he passes it with intention. You can sense what he's saying what his intentions are, that he's trying to drive them, because he has that sense of urgency that even how you pass a ball, that comes through. And it's funny, oddly enough, we were talking about earlier, and it blows my mind when we just can't even cross the field. Like, it's so slow, and just, but that by the time Cuadrado gets it out to the right flank, the other team's in front, he's got nowhere to go with it.
He's got three guys in front of him.
You could sense his frustration, because this pass, he had time to go take a leak in the bathroom at the locker room and then come back out, and it would probably just get there. But Chiellini, Buffon was doing it. I noticed that from Buffon quickly. Like, let's go. Take advantage of them pressing up a bit. Let's go. But, man, again, like, we're a little bit into the second half, and just too many easy turnovers from Juve. And, again, just something that was highlighted, we just lack an understanding in the final third amongst really all our combinations. The best probably combination is Higuaín, Dybala, and Ronaldo, but I don't even think anymore, looking at it, it's so much of an understanding as it is just them being the best shielders of the ball, really. And just pretty solid on their own individual terms, that makes it maybe hide a little bit less than other combinations as to them having a better understanding. I think it's just Higuaín shows quite a bit for the ball, allows Ronaldo to stay high. Dybala shows very well for the ball, allows Ronaldo to stay up high, and it just, they can click here and there, but we still haven't even seen a tic-tac-toe between any of those combinations for quite some time. So it's tough.
Yeah, I don't think you see that anywhere. I think you're right about that. You don't see that in defense. You don't see those combinations. You don't see that, the crisp interplay, across the back line. You don't see it in the midfield with just the sort of base starting line of midfielders. The only time I think you ever see it occurring in midfield is when you have Dybala dropping back. And that's where I think, to your point of, like, it's Higuaín, showing for the ball, it's Ronaldo because he's Ronaldo, and it's Dybala because of his skills. Those are the only guys that can bring that flair and that touch that's needed to play this style. Everybody else is kind of, not being carried by them, but needs them in order to make it happen, because you don't see it when they're not there.
Yeah. No, it's that's exactly right. It's the whole thing is just, it blows my mind that we're this deep into the season and we actually played better last year when everybody was losing their minds. And it was awful to watch, but it was better than this, so it blows me away. 61st minute. And what a bad goal for Juve to allow. Just a really, really bad goal. I believe it began with a turnover from us.
Yes, you're right.
Milan, I think, ended up getting a little bit of a wave of probably a couple corner scenarios, and then they started to get a little bit of control out of it, but they get a crossover, and I think everybody just stopped because, well, I think De Sciglio stopped because I think he figured I think he figured Zlatan was going to head that one because he was ahead of them. And he just ended up creating a gap between him and Rebic, and Rebic directed it in on net. And, I mean, he didn't even get all of it, but still asking a lot for Buffon to get over there. It's just bad. We can't lose focus so easily at the back. It's tough to get on De Sciglio because, honestly, I've seen that from Cuadrado quite a bit too this season, where he's just been poor on an aerial or something like that, and just our back post coverage. We've seen it from Sandro. Our back post coverage is just really, really poor.
Yeah, and that's not on the goalkeeper. I mean, you see some people online like, oh, Buffon should have saved that. Szczesny would have saved that. No, because like to your point, the goalkeeper is respecting the header from Ibra or respecting whatever the volley from Ibra or whatever it's going to be. It's the back post defender's job to mark that player out and get ball side, get goal side.
Exactly. I mean, I thought like even watching it, Zlatan was going to get a head on it, and then even though Rebic failed to make full contact on it, it's going bottom corner. It's right in the bottom corner. I mean, it's going to be tough. It's just tough to get to. Regardless, stay on your goddamn check, Chilio. Back post coverage. Okay.
Yeah, that's where he lets me down for doing all right in the first half. So.
Yeah. 64th minute. Cuadrado takes another hit to the face, this time from Rebic, the goal scorer. It's reviewed. They don't even get the ref to go and take a look. This was pretty bad. I mean, like it was at the point where it was just getting ridiculous. I mean, you can't be swinging your arm out like that. You clear contact right in the face. Like, I laugh, but this was terribly officiated. It's everything is fine if you're anti-Juve, but and I'm sure Rocco Comiso doesn't want to talk about Cuadrado getting treated like a speed bag during this game, but whatever. It doesn't take away from how absolutely lackluster and disappointing Juve was in this match, but it was terribly officiated. I gotta say,
no doubt. Yeah.
71st minute, Teo Hernandez gets another yellow. He's sent off. So, my God, just let's get the victory. Like, let's pull it out. Let's get these goals and just walk away, please.
So you're thinking now, right? Finally, we've got a man advantage. We can make something happen here. We got 20 minutes.
Yeah.
We can pull a couple goals and win this thing, right?
Right?
It's feasible.
Sadly enough, it doesn't even look like we ended up with a man advantage. That's how stagnant offensively we've become. It was 71st to about the 85th minute, and there's literally nothing for opportunities. Like, nothing for opportunities. But then the 87th comes along. Get a little bit of a passing sequence out on the right side of the pitch. Cuadrado drops it in. Bentancur steps in, crosses it immediately. Very nice cross. Ronaldo creates some...
The first one.
Yeah. Ronaldo creates some separation and bikes it. And hits the arm of Calabria. Obviously, heavy protests from Juve. VAR calls ref over. He goes, takes a look. He calls it. Ronaldo steps up. No mistake. There's probably, I don't think there's anyone more automatic than Ronaldo at the spot.
He's perfect this year from the spot still, right? 10
yeah,
out of 10 or something? Or isn't that what they were saying? Or 8 out of 8 or whatever it is, the number?
He's automatic, man. It's crazy. So we tie it, and then I'm instantly frustrated for so many things. Number one, the commentating, going off about the controversial handball. When that is a handball. It's been a handball since the new rules. We've been called multiple times for it. Alexandro's been called for it.
Delict has been, brutalized for that kind of thing. Exactly.
That is a handball all day, and I've seen people defend it saying, well, he's not even looking at the ball. That doesn't even matter. It has nothing to do with intent, no intent. It's literally a ball going on target. Your arm is away from your body, and it hits it. It didn't deflect off the leg and then hit the arm. It was literally like that. You have to call that. They've called it every other time, and they have to remain consistent. And I will give this officiating crew that at least they got that right, because they made a mess of this game. It turned into I didn't know if I was watching the Royal Rumble or if I was watching Milan Juve. It was crazy.
But street fight.
It was crazy. It was crazy. So they got that right. I was frustrated that the commentator was going off and just, adding fuel to this fire on this controversy. And then when you have, I brought him up, Rocco Comiso, this clown. He says, "Oh, I'm not an idiot." Well, you know what? You remove all doubt every time you speak because he's on this, he is on this thing so hard with just the officiating, all this, blah, blah. And I'm just like, dude. And then you hear about all this, anti-Juve alliance that they're creating and whatnot. It's just like, it's so pathetic. And they don't realize how detrimental it is to the actual league. And for the league to allow Comiso to continue with this is actually pathetic. They need to shut it down. They need to realize, you can't create that and let the scandal, corruptness, all these conspiracy theories, you can't pour gasoline on it if you're trying to broaden viewership and everything. And you guys we've got Cristiano Ronaldo in the league and he's scoring like crazy and whatnot, and you're gonna have this negative attention brought to it and just this guy run amok about it. I would be shutting it down if I was if I had anything to do with Serie A, because it's ridiculous. But
I mean, they can't shut down the racism problem, so I'm not surprised that they can't shut this problem down. Not that we want to open that, can of worms, but
yeah, and I mean, we'll get.
But you're right.
Actually.
You're 100% right. I mean,
yeah, well, I mean, piracy is a bigger issue, but
yeah, of course. Heaven forbid, people get to see your games.
Yeah, and then besides the officiating, what I got frustrated with, or the commentating, sorry. I got frustrated that after we went 1-1 and after the 4 minutes it wasted from the time the call got taken to us taking the PK after review, is we finally played with the pace and tempo that we needed to. And for God's sakes, how come we cannot approach a match like this at the start? Kill it off. Get where you need to be. Try to cruise at the very end for 10 minutes if you have to. Put your closers in and kind of, try to get through it. But for God's sakes, we just got to stop putting ourselves in these scenarios where we have to climb back up out of the hole. It's crazy to me. But we end 1-1. I mean, just another woeful performance from Juve. A lot of control and possession with nothing coming from it. It's the same old story. It's getting old. I'm sure everyone's, tired of hearing about it. I'm tired of seeing it. Everybody is. I don't know what needs to happen. But let's talk first before we start breaking things down. Is there anything you liked about the performance? If you had to take anything, was there anything you saw maybe differently that anybody missed? Is there any player performance that you liked? Is there something you liked?
Oh, geez. I thought, here's one that I don't think has gotten a lot of attention. I thought that De Ligt did a very good job, particularly against Ibra, who, doesn't have the pace that he once had. He's never the fastest guy, but he has, very little wheels left. But he's still an imposing physical presence. He's still, got, ball skills. And I thought De Ligt did a really good job containing him, shutting him down. There was one particular challenge that he made where he kind of did a half slide, pop slide, sort of like baseball parlance there, did a pop-up slide sort of in and poked the ball away. So I thought he was solid in that regard.
I
I think to your point, like Dybala played well.
Yeah.
Did a lot of hard work, a lot of link up work, took a lot of hard shots. You know, I was never a guy who liked Ronaldo when he was at Manchester United. Definitely not when he was at Madrid. I mean, you have to respect him for the talent that he had and the winning that he did, but I was never a guy that liked him. But you know, as bad as we're playing, I think every game that we get to see him and we get to see his talent and his work ethic and his drive, every game that we get to see that is a blessing.
Yeah.
And same with Buffon. I mean, he's coming to the end. You know, I think he can still play if he wants. But every game we get to see him out there, you know, still a blessing. So I think those were really the highlights of the game for me.
Okay. I think for me, my positive, I'm going to stay with Ramsey as being a Mitzal. I thought it was okay. That's probably the only positive I'm going to take out of this match. I didn't mind it. I thought it was okay. I want to ask you what your thoughts were on the substitutions made by Sarri. Sarri, I mean, when he earlier in the year, I think his subs were bang on. And there's been a little bit of a period of time now where his subs are somewhat questionable.
Sure.
The first substitute came at the 63rd minute, pretty much immediately after Milan scored. Ramsey was the one that came off and Bentancur came in. What were your thoughts when that substitution was made? For me, I was thinking, why is Matuidi still going to end up being out there?
I mean, my thoughts, I think you're right. I think Ramsey was playing well in that Mezzala role. I not really sure why he had to come off unless he doesn't have the fitness, which is with him is always a possibility. I noticed though when he came off, I think you could hear it on the broadcast. I think you might have been able to see it too, like out of the corner,
He
like
was
in the
livid.
corner of the screen. He was livid. He like kicked the water jug. He was pissed. So I don't think it was a fitness thing. I think it was a tactical thing, which I didn't really understand because I thought he was, like you said, distributing the ball efficiently, quickly.
He made a couple blunders. He missed this one.
Sure.
He was trying to volley. He was coming down the air. He was making a few mistakes, but overall, I liked his direct approach, and we know technically he's miles and miles and miles ahead of Blaise Matuidi. And we need a goal.
Yeah.
So
right.
that was my whole thing.
He can provide one.
So that was my whole thing is, why are we taking off a guy with higher percentages of being involved in a goal, you know, rather than Matuidi? It's just, that one got me. The next one in the 69th minute was Higuain on for De Chilio, moving Cuadrado back. This one I was okay with. Again, we're chasing goals. That one was fine. In the 73rd minute,
binky too, right?
In the 73rd minute, Rabiot comes on for Matuidi, and I'm just like, you goon. Because you could have had Cuadrado still out there. Or, sorry, you could have had Cuadrado still up higher on the pitch, left De Chilio fine, and had Matuidi out. Like, it's bizarre. It's a little bit bizarre. I don't know. It's something I'm going to keep an eye out for now. Is just his subs now.
That last sub, to me, to your point, that last sub to me didn't make sense again because like you're chasing a goal. What is Rabiot doing there? You know, I mean, if you're really desperate at that point, you're a man up. You've got more attacking-minded players you conceivably bring on.
Well, the problem is there's no other options in that particular match. If you look at his bench, after he brought those guys on, there's nobody really else out there. Szczesny, Danilo, Rugani, Pinsolio, Kokolo's a defender. Oliveri is the only other forward he had there.
I mean, you bring bring Danilo on, I guess, as a sort of.
I think I don't know, man. For me,
he's better offensively at least than Rabiot at this point.
Oh,
I don't know.
I don't know, man.
I don't know.
Honestly, what should have happened is move Pjanic out of the damn deep line playmaker, put Rabiot there, let Pjanic go up. Pjanic is better higher up the pitch. Like, just let him go up there. It's these things that we can all see. That's like, just try it. Just try it. What are you gonna get upset with? Sorry, that a kid from Kamloops, BC. Well, I'm not a kid anymore. I'm being very, very generous to myself. But a guy from Kamloops, BC, can see it. You know, guess what, buddy? You used to be a banker. Sorry, so just deal with it. Fuck, man. Anyways,
give it a shot, right? Jesus.
What's sticking out to you other than, is there anything that we haven't discussed that sticks out to you as where the problems lie and where we need to make corrections? Anything besides personnel that everybody wants to always be all over our players? I personally, I hate that because it's just, we can't really change that now. We're stuck with these guys, but I still believe we're capable of far better with the players that we have. The way I'm wired and programmed is, you know, you should be able to bring everybody around you up as a leader, as a coach, whatever. You should be able to a part of being a leader, being a manager, being a coach is to set the talent up to succeed. And this is straight across the board. It applies to absolutely everything. It applies to sports. It applies to your work life, everywhere. You do not put people in scenarios to fail. And that's why I'm not buying into this, we can't criticize Sarri until he gets his players. I'm sorry, if we go trophyless, you ain't going to get a chance to get your damn guys because there are expectations here. And you have, at the end of the day, you have a $294 million payroll.
Yeah.
And you may come out trophyless in a league that we've run roughshod over for 8 years. That's a problem. That's a big problem. But that's part of being a coach, is getting the best out. So I want to ask you, what are some issues aside from personnel and bringing guys in that where do you feel the problem lies? Has Sarri ever had the locker room? Is there do you think the guys are done with him? There's no belief.
I mean, I wonder about that. That's something where you've seen through the course of the year. Like I said, I think most fans, a lot of fans, a majority of fans, whatever you want to say, bought into this idea of, bringing in a new coach with a more attacking style. And people, I think, if they're being realistic, thought that, it would take some time for the style to bed in and everything. But I think we're not seeing it, right? I mean, we're seeing flashes of it. You see 2 minutes here, 3 minutes there, a minute here. You don't see it consistently. You don't see it from every player. It's so disjointed. And I don't know if that's, to my point, I don't know if that's a training thing where they just haven't all had the time and they're just focusing on the wrong things in training, or Sarri's not he's not a training coach. I mean, Max used to be out there, and I had a chance to watch some of those trainings. He'd be out there, pointing guys around and, kicking balls. And I don't know what Sarri does. I don't know if Sarri's out there, in his tracksuit with a cigarette, in his mouth, physically, like, telling these guys what to do, or if he's just sitting back watching, writing in his notebook. So I don't know if it's a poor use of training time, or if it's just like that they haven't bought into it. He never had them, or he lost them. I mean, you see, I think we said this before, when you looked at his Napoli team, and I didn't watch too much of his Chelsea team, so I can't speak to that. But when you watch this Napoli team, how often did you see those guys, stopping and standing on the ball and guys ahead of the ball completely static? Never happened. I can tell you, I never saw that. And you see that all game long now. It's, Pjanic standing on the ball. It's Cuadrado standing on the ball. It's, Rabiot standing on the ball. Nobody making forward runs except for, Ronaldo and Dybala. And I don't know. That to me makes me wonder. It makes me wonder. I don't know. Maybe he has lost the team. Maybe they don't buy in. I don't know. It's
got to feel.
Something's got to change, though.
Like I said earlier, it's got to feel that there's something deeper there. Yeah. That there's issues. I think it was Maurizio from around Turin that put up a photo that was sent in about Agnelli having dinner, with Sarri there and whatnot, and rumors are picking up, and that's going to happen. You're on the hot seat. Some people that don't want to believe it, saying that we're still on pace for all these objectives. I'm sorry, but it's not convincing, and it should be better. And that's something they wanted to move away from. We were unconvincing last season, and we walked away with Serie A, and Agnelli was still willing to make that change. Mm-hmm. So the fact that now we're not walking away with anything and we're less convincing, there's problems. You're going to be on the hot seat. I think personally, I want to get your take on this. I think he's, maybe if we fall behind Merda by some chance, and even Lazio gets ahead of us, if we're talking anything more than 3 points, and depending what happens in a couple weeks with this first tie with Lyon, I could see us actually, I know it's not Juve's way, but I could see them maybe making a change. But some very interesting news. We talk about Serie A and want to do something with racism. It was a hell of a whirlwind here, because not only did Cagliari actually ban, I believe, 3 for life. Shocking.
Kudos to them.
But
kudos to them.
Kudos. That's a start. Okay, keep it up. Let's go. But Man City just got banned for what is it, 2 seasons? 2 from seasons, Champions League. And here we are, Pep. And
the Pep rumors are back.
Insert the Pep rumors here. Obviously, this was speculated heavily last summer, and now reports surfacing again. This is the opportunity, and Juve can take it. And they basically confirmed meetings with Pep last year. It just wasn't going to work out contractually with him and Man City to try and break that. Real quick, right off the bat, and this is why I say, maybe not letting Sarri go, maybe riding it out, is if they had some type of agreement where it could only come in the summer, you might as well just ride it out. Why would you bring, or even if you're going to sack Sarri, I guess have an interim go in there, I guess, but I think at this point it really makes no difference based on the way we're playing, whether it's an interim or anything, but honestly, I think my acoustic guitar here in the corner could coach just as well from what we're seeing right now. But
Pep, at this point,
would you say yes or no to Pep coming to Juve?
Well, I would say first, at this point, talking about what we could do if we sack Sarri at this point in your acoustic guitar. If you want to sack Sarri at this point, let Buffon and Ronaldo and Chiellini coach the team in air quotes. Let them, throw their motivational
Well, you know,
muscle behind it. And like, what the hell? You might as well, like, you can't do any more uninspiring. So
you gotta,
whatever. Like, I'd be on board for that just for the sheer like goofiness of it.
oh
As
man.
far as
you gotta have somebody there. I mean, an interim, whatever. But I get what you're saying, and oddly enough, I brought this up a couple podcasts ago. Say, where's the leaders holding this private meeting amongst the players? Because we've had to do that before, and I don't know if they didn't want to do it now because we're still in tops or something. But they got to realize, like, you could see Buffon jumping during that Verona match, jumping out of the dugout and yelling and screaming. It's like, buddy, you were the one that ran that last meeting when we needed it.
Yeah.
We've got Chiellini, we've got Bonucci, we've got Buffon, Dybala's in there, like Higuain. I know we had that. We sent him away for a year or whatnot, but like, get everybody, get the entire team together. Let Buffon, let Chiellini run. You know what? Call up Claudio Marchisio, bring him back into the damn locker room, and let him remind everybody of what it's like to represent the goddamn black and white.
I was gonna say what they're playing for, right? What the badge is all about.
Like let's get it going here. Take it up. If you've got issues with the coach, if there's something, like, take some pride in yourselves and right the ship. Figure it out. Because at the end of the day, it's them just as much as him that's taking the embarrassment, and take it amongst yourselves. Have that meeting. We've done it before. You could do it again. So gun to your head. Pep at Juve, yes or no?
Yes, only if he has the financial commitment to get the kind of players that he wants. Otherwise, you're better off with, an Allegri-style guy who makes the most of whatever the board gives him.
Well, that's the exact scenario most Juventini will get into. The thought of Pep coaching Juve, for me, I love it, but are we going to just end up where Man City is now? Like, because that's not cool. And we know that we're, behind on the revenue side of it. So it's just not, it can't be that way. So something's got to give. Yeah, so I don't know.
I mean, maybe who knows? Maybe Pep has a secret shopping list of like cheaper versions of players that he wants to bring in. Where I have a guy that
like maybe he's got the AliExpress list there of players, right?
Right, exactly. And he's like, we get this guy for 20, this guy for 15, this guy for 20, instead of going out and splashing 80, 90 million on one guy. If that's the case, then great. Otherwise, as great as as kind of fun as it would be, or as media as it would be, like, now.
Yeah. All right. Let's get to a couple things you wanted to discuss. We've kind of touched on so much already, and going back to the Pep thing, it's kind of funny because, like, leading up to this Milan Coppa first leg, the talks of Messi with his falling out with Barcelona, and then Pep, and then these lineups come out, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, Man City, and then you're like, what, Cagliari, bad racist, what? You're just like, it's happening, Messi's coming, Pep's coming. It's not happening, guys, I'm sorry.
It's the end of the world, right?
Yeah, it's just like, oh my God. Anyways, it just, I found that funny, but Szczesny renewed until 2024. Real quick thoughts on that. I'm fine with it. I'm good. He's solid. He's been solid since he's come over. No issues with it. Chiellini talks he's going to extend for one more year. I love Chiellini. I mean, one more year. I mean, if I could give him my calf, I would. But other than that, I love the guy. Your thoughts on Chiellini?
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree with you on Szczesny. He's fine. He's maybe not as good as some people try to make him out to be, but I think he's perfectly capable. And, that's fair.
Yeah, I think he's underrated personally.
Chiellini, you think he's what?
I think Szczesny overall, like, in world football is underrated. I think he's underrated personally. I think he's a solid keeper. He's bailed us out a ton. But yeah, I think.
Yeah, I think we're spoiled too. That's the other thing, right? Like compare everybody to peak Gigi, and nobody's good enough. But
that's another part of it that makes me appreciate Szczesny is how the shoes that he had to fill and how he's done it. I don't think he has the same command that Gigi does, but how are you going to do that when Gigi's been with us for so long, right?
No, you're right. Yeah.
So it's hard for us to criticize Szczesny for that because he's not gonna get that. I mean, it's something that he just physically can't. Like it's crazy what ended up happening with Gigi, and you're right, we were spoiled, but. Yeah. For what he's done and the shoes he's had to fill, I think that's just another feather in his cap. Personally, I think he's great. But
no, he's great. I got no issues with that.
Yeah,
Chiellini. Yeah, I think same boat. He's in the same boat for me as Gigi. He can play as long as he wants. He can have contract for life. I think he's slowing down. I think he's not dependable anymore. Because of the injuries, as far as like being a full season player, like you can't count on him being around for the latter stages of the Champions League unless you shut him down in the first half of the year. So I think ideally he comes back and he's, a rotation guy, or he's gonna start to transition into that kind of Barzagli role, right, where he's the backup kind of guy with the experience. It's a shame, and it's nothing about his ability, but it's more about his, body starting to break down. So,
I think it's interesting to hear a lot of fans' thoughts on Chiellini coming back and how many say I was a bit taken back by how many were saying they would keep Bonucci and De Ligt as the pairing. And I understand because they've been playing so long together because Chiellini's been out for so long and they got that chemistry and whatnot. But I want De Ligt to learn from Chiellini more than anything.
Yes.
In game. Another thing that I think about that is just an absolute shame, and I was thinking about this during the Milan match, and probably because I had so much rage running through my body, but it was, I was thinking, man, if Chiellini and Demiral could have been healthy and both been out there, we would have two center backs that nobody would want to go near. Yeah. That would just destroy you and make your 90 minutes the worst 90 minutes of your damn life. And I was just like, man, that would be a treat to watch those two because they're so like hard-nosed. And Demiral, like, because he's fresh and he's got the legs, like even more so, but Chiellini still plays like that. He'll take you out if he can't stop you. Oh, yeah. And Demiral's just like boom, right in your face, and they both play every second with that urgency and desire and passion, and I love it. And I thought, man, if we could see those two together, incredible. But I want De Ligt learning in match from Chiellini personally. I'm okay with the Bonucci-De Ligt partnership. I'm actually really happy with how Bonucci has filled in for Chiellini overall. I mean, again, we start talking about in goal, the shoes to fill, big shoes to fill with Chiellini, our captain. And he's been a rock. He's been a rock for a hell of a long time. And Bonucci had his whole scenario where he left the club, come back, and he's dealing with all that. That's a huge story, and we've covered it a lot over the pod and whatnot, but it takes balls. And I said that even from the get-go when I still had my ill will towards him and my bad feelings. I was going to support him because he's back with Juve, but I'll never forget, it still takes balls to do that. Come back, especially throw on that captain's armband in matches and fill in for Chiellini. I think he's done a solid job, but he's slowing down, Chiellini. Your thoughts on when he comes back? Should he be in that role, and should it be the majority of the time be him and De Ligt, or do you think roll with De Ligt, Bonucci?
No, I think it's him and De Ligt. If he's healthy, if he can go, it's him and De Ligt, because I think that's your better pairing. I mean,
the other question is it him and Bonucci?
De Ligt is your younger Bonucci in terms of play style. He's more of a ball playing, maybe less, hard nosed.
Well, the other question is
Demiral is your younger Chiellini, right? So you want to pair up the two.
Well,
that are different play styles. So
the other question is it Chiellini and Bonucci that you go with?
I mean,
in the crunch games.
If knock on wood, we somehow made it to the Champions League final, that's a tough decision. I don't know. I mean, I think if you somehow made it to like a Champions League final, you would see Chiellini, Bonucci out there. I just think that.
Wow.
I just think that you would. I don't know. I don't know that I agree with that, but I think that that's the way it would shake out.
It'd be tough. That's a tough one, man. It's tough.
God, let's hope we have that problem.
I think. Well, yeah, good problem to have. I think it would depend on the matches leading up to then.
Sure.
And I think honestly, out of this goes for any position. I think the guys that are going and that are hot, you ride them and go. Going back to my personal frustrations with not rewarding guys when they need to be with more time. We're shutting it down. We're seeing good signs of something that starts to work, but not going back to it. Frustrating.
I mean, how long do you think it'll be before we see Ramsey as a Mezzala again?
Probably won't, because he kicked that cooler and just lost his mind. Drew, you wanted to touch on a thought you had with CR7, a topic of discussion. I'm gonna pass this over to you. I've taken a hell of a lot of heat this year from CR7 fans, actually, since I started the podcast last year. I'm gonna take a little breather on this and let you roll with it and see if I jump in.
All right. Just throw me into the fire. I don't know. And I'll couch this and try to deflect some of that fire by, like I said earlier, every game we get to watch him, I think is a privilege, and we should recognize that and be grateful for that. But part of me wonders, you look at the team right now, and without going into a whole transfer window thing of who could go and who could stay and who we could bring in, whatever, look at the money that's spent on those wages, and look at the money that's, we paid in that transfer fee. It's a hell of a lot of money, and it's done a lot. Let's be fully recognizing that we've it's done a lot for the club in terms of bringing in added revenue and bigger sponsorship deals and all that. But looking at the holes in this team and where we go, okay, do we need a right back because we can't keep rolling with Cuadrado there? Do we need how many midfielders do we need? Do we need to think about, is Higuain done? Do we need, another striker to pair up with Ronaldo? Or, pair up with whoever up top? It's a lot of money. You're potentially looking at, that's his wages alone are the wages of, 2 Pogbas, if not slightly more, right? He's making 30.
Yeah.
And Pogba's is he on 12 or 15 at Manchester?
I think he's in that range, yeah.
Yeah, so it's 2 guys at that level, just on his salary there that you could, and you just, it's somebody would bang in the goals.
Well, because that's a clear thing is, everybody hindsight's always 20/20.
Yeah.
At the time, I
love it. I wouldn't do anything different.
I always look back to this, and this is why I get so upset when Juventus signs contract extensions that don't make sense. This is why it frustrates me, because if you have the opportunity to add one of the top 2 footballers on the planet at that time, granted it's at a latter stage of his career, but he at the time was showing no signs of decline.
He's still not.
You know, you have to sign him. Like, you have to. It was $100 some mil. You have to do that. And at the time, we were pretty consistent in the mix of contention with Champions League as well. Yeah. Theoretically, that could have been the missing link.
Sure.
It clearly didn't play out that way, but his contribution, financially, everything, exposure, all that, on and off the pitch was there. The numbers were there. And again, this year, his numbers are like, he had his lull, but he's banging goals, even if they're on PKs, whatever. The nice thing about the PKs is he's automatic. But even against Milan here, I mean, I thought he played pretty good. I mean, he was getting involved. It's just our system lacks structure and lacks the organization and cohesion that it needs to get the best out of all our guys, but you gotta sign them. Like, you do. It's a hard one. And when I get back to these extensions and stuff, I actually talked about this on the podcast I was a guest on with Marcin there on his Top-Bins Talk. I said, it really looks like a problem now because of being handcuffed with those other scenarios, because those are the ones that are truly preventing us from making the additions. Sure. Everybody's looking at Ronaldo because it's such a bigger number. But these other ones, look at this past summer and how it handcuffed us. The Mandzukic thing handcuffed us. Khedira handcuffed us. We're handcuffed with Blaise Matuidi. It's just like we are locked in, and it was all our own doing. Yeah. So I have no problems.
You're handcuffed with Higuain. Don't forget that. You're handcuffed with Higuain too. Don't forget that, right? I mean,
exactly. Yeah, Higuain. That's
a big one, right?
This is the thing, right? Like, all those other decisions are the ones that are handcuffing us. The Ronaldo one isn't the one that's really handcuffing us, and he's still producing. It's hard, but we've got the sponsorship now with Allianz that picked up, that boosted. Our shirt sponsors brought us up huge. I think we were somewhere down in the 20 range of clubs, like 20 to 25 for rankings on shirt sponsors. And now there's only about 5 or 6 ahead of us now. Yeah. Big jump there. The exposure's there. He's on and off the pitch. We're doing it. Yeah, it's tough, man. I totally understand where you come from, because it's such a huge salary and it was a big fee, but those are the ones you want to see your club kind of making, right? It's these other ones that, like, when we're given contract extensions for when it's time to just walk away and say no, and then pick up a young guy, and not having to pass on young guys because we've just locked into this 33-year-old, it's shocking. And then we miss young up-and-coming talent because we can't sign them. And then not only that, we have to get rid of our own talent because we can't sell these guys we just extended because nobody wants them. Those are the ones that are creating the problem for us. And Ronaldo's masking it because of that big figure. He's kind of taking the brunt of it, and he's here. And that's just how I see it and how I feel about it. It really, this whole Ronaldo thing just highlighted how much we couldn't finish the project, finish this team, because we handcuffed ourselves.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. I mean, like I said, every game we get to see him is a blessing, and he's amazing. And I mean, I think I totally agree. I would do it again in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
But it is, and I think you're right. It's not so much about his salary. When you think about it, it's all these other guys that we haven't been able to sell and move on from. And if you did that, you'd be better off and you'd be fine. So it is, though. It's tough because you look at it and you're like, it's a pant load of money that you could do.
Because here's the thing,
a ton with.
So you don't have Ronaldo, right? So we don't bring him in. Depending on who you get. At the time, they were asking for 110 for Milinkovic-Savic, 110, 120. So now all of a sudden, you're not paying that salary, but you've just dropped almost the same on a fee for Milinkovic-Savic. Are you going to take a Champions League killer, or are you going to take Milinkovic-Savic? Okay, we want to bring Pogba back, so we don't get Ronaldo. We bring Pogba back, but not. You still have Matuidi, Khedira, Higuain on your roster and stuff like that, and you still have all these guys that you can't sell. Mandzukic, I love Mandzukic, but you still have these guys you can't move, and you're still stuck with, right? So it's almost the same problem, but you would have two players rather than Ronaldo, but still be stuck with an issue of completing your team, right?
And that's what's so
having
frustrating.
to sell guys you don't necessarily want to sell, like maybe Spinazzola. That one bugs me, but like Moise Kean, instead of like growing with us, and
the failure to sell players, that's another thing that we could get into quickly, right? Us old time guys, the thing that I always appreciated about Moji was if he was going to buy someone, he had the sale. I mean, with the exception of the Cristiano Ronaldo thing that fell through, he had the sale all lined up, right? So, like, there was never this case of, like, we bought a guy, and now everybody in the world knows we need to sell the guy in the same position, so they're going to lowball us. He would have the sale lined up first, and then he'd have the buy in his back pocket. So he'd move these guys on, like, and whatever, Paratici, Nedved, those guys got to go lock themselves in a room with him and learn how the hell to do that, because
I don't know.
Like
I think
handcuffing to these old guys is terrible.
I think it's so aimless. It feels.
Yeah.
Like when last summer, like I kind of made up my mind with this board right now, like currently, because when we tried to push Dybala out of the friggin' club, like that's when I'm just like, you guys have lost the plot like completely, and you're like, this is insane. But anyways, we'll see what happens. But things are really picking up, and now this Pep thing like this, so it's gonna be crazy. I think I heard Momblano say it was actually this summer he was talking about Pep. So, but real quick before we wrap up, I see on Twitter you have your profile picture there, and it's Gigi Buffon.
It is.
I want to hear, because I've not been fortunate enough to meet the great man, the great living legend, Gigi Buffon, and I want to hear your story about that picture. Yeah,
so I'm fortunate I'm in the Boston area, and so when they were doing their North American tour, 2 years ago? 3 years ago? 2 years ago, right? The summer that Bernardeschi came in. Yeah, it was 2 years ago. Their base camp was sort of around the corner, I guess, from my parents' house, and it was kind of on my way home from work. So it was real nice. Like once we kind of figured out, like, oh, that's their base camp, it was just kind of like swing by there, like it's a couple early afternoons off from work, and got to go out there and watch the whole team like training, and it was kind of cool the first couple days before the rest of the team showed up. It was just like Alexandro and a couple of the other guys. Who else was there at that point? I can't remember. A couple of the early arrivals that had come up from the Coppa America.
Okay.
Right? It was Coppa America at that point? Yeah. So that was cool. And then the rest of the team showed up, and they had, a couple open practices, and it started to get kind of mobbed, which was little crazy. But there was one afternoon before it got too bad where Gigi came out and was just kind of walking down the line, and it's really cool. Like he was just like, yeah, no autographs, but like he'll take selfies with you. So I was like, sweet, phone, and pulled it out, got a selfie with him, and then got autographs. I've got a bunch of autographs from that. I had a huge flag.
Nice.
That I got like all the guys to, or a bunch of the guys to sign the flag and all. So yeah, it was cool.
That's pretty cool, man. Yeah.
Yeah, went down to Jersey for the game there.
Nice.
Against Barcelona, and met a whole bunch of folks from the New York area, and Maurizio was there with his family.
Oh, really?
From around Turin, yep.
Awesome.
So that was cool. So that was like the second time I met him, because I actually met him one time over in Turin. So
Turin, nice. How many times have you been to a live Juve match?
Just one. I went to the 2015 Champions League quarterfinal against Monaco.
Nice.
That was awesome.
That's pretty cool. The video of this man cave you have, the Juve shrine, it is pretty epic. And when I post this podcast up, you should fire the link below so people can really appreciate it. It's a thing of beauty. I love it. And I'm getting there. This whole new house setup thing is I'm taking my sweet time with it and whatnot, but it's a thing of beauty, man. I love it. You need to post that link so people can really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But no, that's great, man. Thanks for the stories. Thanks for the discussion. Despite a pretty brutal watch, this was a fun podcast to do. Drew, thank you for reaching out. We'll do it again. And thanks everybody for listening. We will be back with another podcast and another guest and another first-time guest after the match against Brescia this weekend, and hopefully we can get back on the winning track. We know that Merda will be playing Lazio. This is a critical weekend for the title race. So yeah, we hopefully don't slip up, get the job done, and move forward. Let's just keep doing the only thing we can, which is hope that things turn around, and that we can just start getting that forward momentum. But let's see what happens this weekend against Brescia. Drew, thanks again. Everybody, we'll talk to you then. As always, Forza Juve, fino alla fine. Ciao.
Forza Juve.